tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Ron G, coming to you with another one, a consult, senior benefits for retirement wealth analyst over here in the West Palm Beach area. Just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that I spoke to on a podcast about a year ago, the Net Worth Nation podcast, which is very dynamic, by the way. Spoke about some things that I think, well, I don't think I knew the impact of what we were talking about then as much as I do now. I mean, that was almost well over a year ago. We talked about the top 4 myths of retirement. And in the process of that year, because in my line of work, I go out and I sit with families, and we sit down and we try to put our heads together on some of these, some strategies. And the things I'm seeing out there in real world and real world time, it's just, it's mind-boggling. It really is. And so it really led me to really want to do this here and talk about it again. And I'm going to start from the top. And it's not going to be a long video because I think at this point it just deserves just straight to the point. So the number one thing that I talked about was my pension and my Social Security will do. And that was the first myth that I really wanted to start with. And I think the real reason for that is that once I really realized how, well, first of all, shout out to all those of you who still even have pensions. You'd have to be a blind man or be living under a rock to know that most companies in the, what do we call, Generation X and after, do not really have pensions. You don't really see pensions because pensions are things of the ghostly past in a sense that you just don't see them. And the real reason for that is that they, one, they're very difficult to afford, right? Because you're talking about monies that's going in for obviously people that no longer work there. And I think I mentioned that there were a couple of things that I'm going to come back to in another way that really caused the real issue. The pensions, if you notice, the generation before Generation X, and all that baby boom and all that stuff, a lot of those guys back then, their life expectancy was nowhere near what it is today. I mean, let's face it. I mean, yeah, you can see the Betty Whites and people like that, the Dick Van Dykes and stuff like that, but those are anomalies. Most people, due to the generation that they were in, if they lived to their 60s, that was great. And so when you have masses and masses of people living into 70s and 80s, it causes a type of financial stress and duress on a system that's just was never really built to handle that. So that's the first thing I want to, I'm hoping I'm myth busting that. And then of course, when you look at the fact that Social Security is in a similar bucket there. I mean, how many people have not heard that Social Security may be gone within the next 10 years? Because again, it was predicated and built on systems of people putting in. And you have two dynamics that's going absolutely haywire with Social Security. You have less people putting in, and you have more people living longer. Those two dynamics can't coexist and keep that platform open. It just can't happen, right? So real talk, not to bore you to death with these gory stories, but guys, I'm telling you, this is not a game. I'm seeing it out there. The Social Security and the pensions aren't cutting it. And let me tell you another thing, what I realized, the biggest myth too, is that the calculations of those numbers are based on a basis of high earning years, which means there's going to be a percentage formula for both of those. What does that mean? Well, that means if you're accustomed to bringing home 10,000, 7,000, 8,000, 5, whatever those numbers are, and that's your threshold. That's not what you're going to be bringing home in retirement, guys. The percentages are designed to lower that number. That's real talk. And so if you look around you, you don't see prices going down. That's called inflation. You don't see salaries going up. You don't see prices going down. So what happens is, Mythbuster number 2, the government will take care of us concept. Well, that doesn't quite cut it, because yeah, they'll give you raises, but you got to remember, you're getting a reduced rate to begin with. So they drop you down, reduce your rate, and then they bring you up every time there's a cost of living raise, but you're already down. You see, you never come back up. So the 2 key things that everyone preaches about in retirement are flawed, because they are going to be reduced. That means most of us are not going to wrap our heads around what that really means. We don't get it. How do I know that? Because I've spoken to family after family, person after person, and the numbers aren't lying. I can see people are underwater in that retirement bracket. For everyone that's out of the water, you got 5 to 6, 7 people that are under. Those numbers aren't really that attractive to me. So that's the first thing. The second thing, let's talk about, my 401k. I've added that, my 401k and my IRA. Is a 401k and an IRA, is that going to be enough? Well, the IRA, to a certain extent, because the taxes are already accounted for in an IRA. So you ask yourself, you're able to put in maybe 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 a year. Do the math. Multiply that over the 15 to 10 years that you've had an IRA. And you might say, well, why won't I say the 30 years you had an IRA? Well, I think everyone, it's fair to say that most people, and this is who I'm talking to, this is the most people video, most people don't get serious about retirement until they get into their 40s. And that's when they start to realize, wait a minute, I don't really got much money. You know, I've been spending all this money on the kids and putting them in good schools and doing this and saving for their college and doing stuff for them. What about mom and dad, right? So mom and dad have this big wake-up call, because I know I get calls from that target group all the time. Now they're waking up like, hey, man, it's not enough money. So if you look at that from your 40s, you know, that's going to be about good 15 years. So 15 years at $6,000 or $7,000 a pop, it's just not going to cut it. It's not enough. And then when you go over to your 401k world and you get into that universe, then what do you see? Well, yeah, you see money. You see money coming in, you see money coming out, money coming in, money coming out, money coming in, money coming out. But you also witness, well, you don't witness because you're not around there yet and you haven't seen it yet, but you also witness unbelievable taxation that falls upon the 401k. Unbelievable. Now, some of you may be aware of it that may have moved jobs and maybe had to take money out because you didn't transfer it or whatever, and you were in between jobs, because mostly people like in my generation and younger will probably change jobs anywhere between 4, maybe a minimum of 4 or 5 times in their careers. And so you've probably accumulated maybe 5 years of 401k or whatever, or 6 or 7 years of 401k. And so you've gotten a taste of what it looks like when you took the money or didn't move it. You saw the taxes. You saw the 20%, the 10%, and then you also saw the regular state taxes that you had to pay on it. And so you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, multiply that times 10. You know, when you got like 200,000 or 300,000 in there. Let's just say you were fortunate enough to save that amount. Can you imagine how you're going to feel? You know, when you're at that age, because remember now, when you're 65, you ain't bouncing 65, 67, whatever. You're not bouncing between jobs. Like, you leave now, you go to another job as a young person, and you can bang out another 10, 15 years or whatever. You're talking about at the end of the line. So when you're at the end of the line and you're taking that money out, and they hammering you with those taxes, are you kidding me? That's another myth. Mythbuster number 3. And the last one, before I bring it to a close, Mythbuster number 4, Medicare. Medicare will take care of me. Medicare will do what it needs to do. And yes, Medicare is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal product. And there are a lot of things out there for the senior audience. But guys, let me tell you something. Let me tell you the top 3 things Medicare won't really block you from. Any kind of major strokes. Yeah, you'll get hospitalization for that. But where you get burned at is on the back end, when you have to go to like some kind of a nursing facility to like get back on track. So if you have to go into any kind of nursing facility, or you got to be down for a while, where you're going to need somebody like maybe a home attendant or somebody to come in and help you with things like daily living, you know, while you're getting back up on your feet. Because remember, guys, we're talking about older people here. We're not no spring chickens at this point. So the bounce back from major injury, surgery, could be cancer, any of those type of things. Any of those major things, while you're covered, there's a lot of loose ends in that. So much so that I'm finding out most people at that age are forced to have to give up a lot of the monies that they had, the savings buckets that they have, so that they can get on what they call social services, which is state assistance. Because state assistance is going to say, oh, you have an IRA? Oh, you have a property in the South Carolinians? Oh, you got a 401k. You know, they're going to want to know what kind of money you got before they'll even help you. And you probably say, well, why would I need help from the state if I save for retirement? Well, that's a great question. Why would you? Well, because if you listen to the first 3 or 4 things that I said, those monies are not going to be nearly enough. And what happens is day-to-day expenses are attacking those monies. Then you have sicknesses and illnesses that you didn't account for. I mean, nobody expects to get sick. Nobody expects to be disabled. Nobody expects any of those things to happen. But that doesn't stop them from happening, guys and gals. Just because we don't expect something to happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And so we don't prepare ourselves with the expectations that it will happen, and just have extra money. That's the smart approach, right? Just have the extra money and just say, what the heck? I just have extra money I can tap into. We don't do it like that. We choose to bypass those small little policies that could really help us a lot. Man, I don't want to pay no $35 a month for this. I don't need that. $125, I don't need to pay that. And so we don't do it. But we do a lot of other things, guys, right? We don't negate to eat out. We don't negate to hit the movies. We don't negate to hit the strip. We don't negate to have all of our little apps, our little YouTube apps, our what do we do? Our Spotify's, things of that nature. So when you think about that in its entirety, we really have to ask ourselves, what the heck are we doing, and what are we going to do to change that narrative? I'm your guy, Ron G, coming at you live with another one. I hope it helps. Peace.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love